Now, just a little warning before we begin. There will be major spoilers in this video for Godzilla -1, though the non-spoiler review would be, go check this movie out. It's fantastic.
Yes.
And so if you haven't seen it, and you should, click away now.
And I'm Sailor Naboo, if you don't know.
Well, hello, Sailor Naboo. But anyway, let's jump right into it. What did you think of Godzilla -1? You being the bigger of the Godzilla fans among us.
Yes, I watched Godzilla my entire life with my dad.
Yes,
every Godzilla movie,
like a rite of
I've
passage
probably
for you, yeah.
seen every single one from the golden age of the Godzilla movies.
Yes, your dad made sure of that.
It was our thing.
No, that's cool. That's
me and my
cool.
dad had a lot
Your
of
dad
things.
is an awesome guy if he,
Yeah.
for some reason, happens to watch this video. Which he might. If any video,
Oh,
it would be this one.
yes. Though it's sad because he wouldn't have seen this movie in the theater.
No, because he doesn't want to have to...
He doesn't read subtitles super well.
No. Well, he's not exactly the youngest guy anymore either, so...
No, he doesn't. He doesn't like... He can do subtitles. He does not prefer subtitles.
Yeah.
He would just say, I will wait. Though he is an avid anime watcher, so he does do subtitles when he chooses to.
He prefers not to.
Prefers not to. But as for the movie, I thought it was fantastic. To even find things wrong with it are just nitpicking, honestly.
I don't know about nitpicking. I think the good so heavily outweighs any of the bad that you just let it go. And I think that is the case for a lot of movies. If you enjoy, I mean, obviously, if you enjoy something, you're going to defend it and kind of be prone to overlook the bad. And if you don't like something, you're going to find everything wrong with it.
What's interesting is because we have the modern age of the MonsterVerse also.
Certainly,
And this is not a part of that. Let's make that very clear.
This is not a part of that at all.
It's very interesting to compare the two. This did the human story superbly. It carried the entire film.
Yeah, it was.
Watching this kamikaze pilot, watching Koichi, he was a coward at one point in time. He wouldn't give his life. He was too afraid to do it. He redeemed himself. He finally was able to get over the war through having to fight Godzilla. And he realized what he wanted out of life.
I'd rather go to war than fight Godzilla, but hey.
I mean, he had some PTSD. He had this wonderful story, beautiful character arc. His relationship with Noriko was so interesting. I mean, the way it started, the way it ended.
Everything about him is fascinating because here you have he's supposed to be a kamikaze pilot. And we're in the waning days of the war when Japan knows they're going to lose, essentially. But they, of course, a very honor, pride-filled culture, are going to fight to the last man. That is essentially one of the reasons we justified using the nuclear weapons on them, is because we figured we would save more lives in the long run because Japan was not going to surrender. So here you have someone who knew he's kind of throwing his life away, and yet he comes back and gets so much guilt for it. Like, if you would have done your job, we could have held out.
I mean, he comes back home hoping to see his family, finds out they were killed in air raids, and then he gets harassed by his neighbor for surviving. That was not his job.
No, his job was to give his life. So
he dishonored his family in a way, and he had to come back from that. He had to pick his life back up and figure out how to move forward. And he didn't even start moving forward until Noriko kind of burst into his life.
Yeah.
With the war orphan Akiko.
Yeah.
And then he still couldn't move forward. No. He wanted to provide. He wanted to help them. It was him kind of reclaiming a family. And without that, would he have ever come back to himself? Probably not.
And it's well done, too, because there's that one scene where they're all his friends and they're all around the table and celebrating. And they assume he's married.
Yes.
And you kind of assume they're married at this point, too, right?
You're like,
they're living
year
together.
Passed, yeah.
And then you find out they're not, and you're like, dude, like,
why
move
not?
on with your life, dude. Like,
and he can't.
No, he can't. He's
because
stuck.
Of the guilt he feels from what happened on Odo Island, that they all died to Godzilla because he couldn't fire.
And in theory, he may have killed Godzilla because Godzilla was
relatively
tiny right there. Yes.
We don't know what his
we don't know whether his regeneration
powers
were.
Yeah. Because we assume those may have come about later because later we do see the nuclear test or something go off. We see Godzilla get hit by some stuff, so we
assume that's what gave him his atomic breath.
That could have definitely sped him along.
That's what we're assuming. I think that's meant or is implied that he actually could have, if he would have just fired, could have killed him there and then.
One thing I didn't like so much about the show, and I did and I didn't, was the music. I love that we went back to the original score.
That was awesome, yeah.
Yeah, the original Godzilla themes were in there. The ones that Bear McCreary used when he did the American Godzilla King of the Monsters. He also used that traditional Godzilla theme that was in the original movie way back in the day.
Yep.
I love that they had that, but They also made use of silence in this movie, where there were times when I swear the theater had to hold its breath.
Yeah, literally, yes.
Because it was so quiet. Because there was no background music. It was the characters are talking, and then they're quiet, and then the theater's quiet.
I think it was well done, but perhaps a bit
It was
overused.
too long.
Yes, there were times when you felt it a little too much.
Silence is a powerful tool in movies.
Yeah, and it was powerful. I think it was, like I said, I think there were moments where you certainly appreciated it and understood it, but there were sometimes you're like, this kind of feels like it's going on forever. And
Especially
when you're in the theater, like,
theater,
that's packed and you're sitting next to it and you're like holding your breath because you just feel like you're gonna, anything you do is gonna be heard.
You're doing that thing where you're trying to slowly chew your popcorn. And
I know, when you just stop mid popcorn, you're like, oh jeez,
like, I can't make a noise. Everything is quiet. Everyone's holding their breath right now.
And then the one kid in the theater screams out, "Are they still friends?"
Yeah, are they still happy?
God. Yeah, that's what it was.
Yeah.
Yes. No, they're not happy with Godzilla.
Yes, because apparently not everyone in the theater, not all the parents
understood
realized
that, this
that
was
when
not
it said
a
subtitle
movie.
on the tickets when you bought
we had
them.
some young kids in the theater.
Yep, who you heard throughout the entire movie kind of, what's going on?
Yeah, didn't have any clue.
Like you're hearing kids chatter because, for one, if they can't understand it, they're not interested. For two, this was more of a traditional Godzilla movie where they do focus a lot on the human story.
Yeah, and so I mean, it is the human story with Godzilla just being the
he
kind of...
He is the plot. He is moving the things along. He's a plot device for most.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to call him something so generic, but yeah, in a manner of speaking, yes.
Mm-hmm. The story was about Noriko, Koichi, Doc, the kid, Captain, and Akiko. That was the story. Yeah. Godzilla was the plot. He was the plot device.
He's the
he
thing
was the
that
one
makes
who moved things forward.
He makes the magic happen when he shows up, yes.
If you are going to the theater for this Godzilla movie, this is not one of the American Godzilla movies.
Even those, I don't know, they're like... I mean, I understand kids want to see cool monsters fighting in a city.
Well,
it's fun,
and those ones, they like put kids in the plot. Like, well, if kids are going to see it, we have to have kid actors,
well,
too.
yeah, well, not that young, but younger, yeah.
But that's what's... When you compare it to the American movie, that's what's really sad, is the American movie, the plot is just not
an excuse.
Yes, it's not heartfelt.
Well, the story
like this was.
The human actors are put in there as context, so you understand what's going on. They can
because
talk
the
to each other.
Can't talk, yeah.
Yes, and to give you like some amount of like, people are dying. That's sad, but you really don't care that much about them. In this, you're basically watching the movie like, when is Godzilla going to come back? Because these people are boring. Whereas in this movie, in -1, you're like, you're dreading Godzilla returning because you care about these people, and you know when he comes back, he's going to shatter their lives.
I loved how in this movie they made the human weapons feel small and ineffective.
Yeah, you could tell there was nothing there.
That air of hopelessness, and then that surge of, we will fight Godzilla. We are the private citizens, and we are going to defend our country. These are our families.
Yes,
the rallying at that end and that scene. It was powerful, and I loved that. You felt everything in this movie.
Yeah, and there are a lot of commentaries of the time in this movie as well, about the United States, about Japan, about a lot of things.
The Soviet Union, yes.
So, well, yeah, the growing concern of the Soviet Union when the United States and our standoff
War.
with them. Yep, the start of that. So it has a lot of things that you might, say, oh, it's a very political...
So wait, this wasn't a total historical movie? Because I thought that was, maybe...
Well, for all we know... Godzilla did show up in Japan, just, kept it on the down low, but I doubt that. But no, I mean, it does. It has a lot of, that in the background. We're like, oh, they're going there.
One thing that we both found was very interesting is, of course, when we saw it in the credits, Square Enix actually worked on this.
I didn't see any Final Fantasy characters. That's all I know. I mean, not all I know.
So I'm assuming
that's like, when
that
I
they
hear
were brought
Square Enix,
in
I see Final Fantasy.
to do a lot of the animations for Godzilla.
Probably.
Godzilla, he looked good. I didn't like his movements when he walked around.
I did. We have a very big point of contention here.
I think because he's supposed to be a natural animal, I think at times, and I'm not saying all the time, at time when he was just walking through city or walking forward, he didn't feel like he had enough natural animal gait to him. He kind of always held his arms like robotic. And I just felt they could have been a little more natural, swaying, a little more natural movement.
There were times when he looked a little more stiff. I'll give you that. My counter argument is I think he's more of an aquatic creature, and hence when he comes on land, he's not really, he's not the Godzilla from the new MonsterVerse.
Well, he's not the Godzilla from the original MonsterVerse either.
Well, no, he's not.
Who was a guy in a suit who could kind of move around and do little shuffles and stuff. It was great. But yeah, I think he was a little more robotic than I'm used to seeing in my Godzillas, both old and the MonsterVerse version of him. He misses a little bit of the animalistic movement, a little bit of the gait. I'm not saying that's killing it for me.
No.
Because they did a great... He looked fantastic.
Oh, he looked great. I kind of made the point. I did a video on this the other day.
Like I said, this is a little nitpick.
Yeah, where it's so cool that you didn't really think about the CGI either way. It wasn't like so bad that you're like, oh, this is just hard to watch. And it wasn't so over the top like, say, in a MonsterVerse movie where you're like, well, this is just CGI.
I mean, like Godzilla, 2003 or something? That weird one that came out?
Which weird one?
The one that nobody likes to talk about because it was really just a T-Rex and there were little babies.
Oh, yeah, that's the American one. Well,
yeah,
that was
that
like
one
90s,
was horrible.
wasn't it? That
I don't
was in
remember.
2000s, yeah.
No, but it was
horrible.
horrible.
In New York and like in laying eggs in Madison Square Garden.
Because Godzilla was a lady. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. One thing that I know was also brought up on our Discord, and I kind of echo that sentiment, is in terms of pacing, it may have been like 10 to 15 minutes too long.
Maybe.
Some of the areas that were very slow were just a little too slow. I mean, it did help pack the emotional punch, but maybe a little too much.
Yeah, I didn't honestly have too much problem with the pace. I can see where you would, but I thought it was just a very well-made movie all around. Like the complaints I have are small and insignificant compared to the good parts.
Yeah.
But I mean, to each their own. I can see why you would say that, or why someone would feel that way.
But if you're going to take your kids to go and see it, I would definitely make sure that they're going to have to read the subtitles right now.
Yeah.
That all that existed, although it's not going to be in the theater anymore, so don't worry about that.
Yeah, it's not.
I'm curious if a dubbed version will come out and maybe head back to the theaters. That has happened in other movies. Like when I originally saw Hero, it was subtitled and then came out and dubbed.
Yeah, I'm curious what the future of this movie will be.
They obviously left it open, right?
Well, no, I don't mean even that. If I have one complaint, I actually didn't like that.
You didn't like the ending where you kind of saw Godzilla start regenerating.
Yeah, and then
water.
she had her thing in the neck. Where it's like, well, did she get like hit with some Godzilla, and she regenerated and came back to life essentially, like kind of like he did?
She should not have survived.
Yeah.
There's no way on earth that she survived that. No, not with what we saw happen.
I have no problems with you going for a sequel. I just wish like we just had that ending, and you're like, yeah. Though I can at the same time see, okay, yeah, well.
But that's
not every
traditional also in Godzilla.
Sure, it's
the very first movie when they like hit him with the oxygen destroyer, and at the end they like showed the skeleton down there and like end question mark.
I get that. It's just it was so good, and you're like, yeah, I'd love a sequel to this, sure. But you're just like, can we just get? No, we can't. There he is. Mm-hmm. He's coming back.
Of course, he's coming back.
Yeah,
he's gonna be mad.
But no, like just a profound emotional journey. That's what this movie was. That happened to have Godzilla as the
plot.
The monster. That's the monster driving it.
Mm-hmm.
It was incredibly well done.
I'm curious if they go for a sequel where they continue to follow Noriko and Koichi, or I mean, they have to in some respects because she has a piece of Godzilla in her.
Yeah, that's what possibly. I'm assuming that was. Yeah.
And are they gonna go back to what they did like in the traditional films and start turning him into a good guy and give him other monsters?
Yeah, we're gonna see Mothra and some of the other friends.
Rodan,
show up.
Yeah, Mechagodzilla. Yeah. King Ghidorah.
I don't respect him that much.
Maybe some more of the ones that they haven't used in the American
There's this weird part of you that hopes they don't, because you feel like the more they're going to do, the more it's just... I mean, the movie stands on its own, right? Just because if they do more and they get goofy with it, that's one thing. But, there's this weird part of me that's like, that was just so good, just leave it alone and let it be its thing. And that other part is like, let's keep this thing going.
All right. Should I end this with my Godzilla roar?
I thought we were gonna hammer scale it, but you can Godzilla. You can warn everybody. Godzilla roar. He didn't do his roar that much. It was like one or two times.
There's a couple of times, but they kept his traditional tones.
They knew
what
they were doing in this movie. They did so well done. So well done. Yes. Hammer scale.
Hammer scale. You always go first.
Well, I'm gonna let you because you're the Godzilla one.
Oh, I'm gonna give this a 9.
Really?
Yeah, I'm giving it a 9. Because is there a such thing as the perfect movie? It's really hard to say.
No, I don't think there is.
We've
discussed this before.
Because I do think they could have just knocked it out of the park if they added just a little better CGI to Godzilla, as the movie is named after him. In the silence, sometimes, like you said, not excited.
Silence
just
was
a hair too long.
well done, but perhaps
And our
a little
theater
overdone.
experience kind of influenced me with the
Kids
with
screaming,
the kids
yeah, that kind
not
of
knowing what's going on. The
Maybe that was
tugboat's
part of
pulling, and everyone's like, look, they're doing it, and everyone's smiling and cheering, and then it gets quiet because Godzilla's coming back because the subtitles are telling us, oh, this isn't working, he's coming back.
Yeah.
And the kid's going, are they still happy?
Yeah, there
We're
were
like,
a couple.
Oh, goodness.
Maybe that was part of the reason the silence was because we would hear the kids.
I wanted to hear the dad try and explain to him what kamikaze pilots were.
Oh, yeah. That's a fun conversation to have with a 6-year-old.
But yes, the theater experience does influence me a tiny bit as well.
Yeah.
So that's why I could say 9, which is still very respectable.
Oh, it's more than respectable.
Mm-hmm.
I will give it... am I allowed to do half hammers or no?
No, I've told you, no half hammers.
Then it's a 9. I'd probably go 9.5. I thought this movie was...
Well, I would go 9.5 if there were half hammers, but there are not.
Well, 9 or 9.5 if we allow.
Half hammers a rock.
This movie is it perfect? No. As we discussed, I don't think there's a perfect movie, but wow. It is phenomenal. Mm-hmm. It is a phenomenal movie and one that you should check out if you haven't, even though we just spoiled everything for you.
Well, it's a spoiler review.
I know.
This is what they wanted.
This is what you asked for. But no, it's an excellent movie. 9.5. Fantastic. All right, well, that is going to be all we got for you this time. Now it is your turn. Take to the comments below and tell us what you thought of Godzilla -1. And let's talk some Godzilla. And until next time, thanks for watching.